So this is a fun song, really easy. This is a repeat after me song. So I'll start, and you follow. There's just 2 little parts, and it's a lot of fun. You guys ready?
Yeah.
It goes like this. Ba da da da. Ba da 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 da. Great. Good job. All right. We're gonna start that again, and we're just gonna keep going. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Ba da.
I used the insurance from the accident to pay off the mortgage, $75 for groceries, and the rest went to taxes, tuition, and Tina. Did all right. Hello there, doctor. It's the doctor. She's right with a wistful sadness.
Got a banana?
For you, always. She's constantly coming to me through the patches, half starved, like a little Peter Rabbit, getting the holes of her bag of crochet stuck on the nails in my fence post.
How's it, doctor? Yeah, stand up at the OK Corral last night. I said no more, you know? Get yourself a goddamn reusable bag of fucking 20, because they fucking exist in our goddamn house, like little scrunchy sculptures shoved in every inch of negative space. And get your ass in your goddamn Prius and go get us some goddamn groceries. I want to say this is what you do. This is what you have to do. You can't say that. You can't say that, because then it's an evening of licking wounds, and I don't have time for that. So no bananas, no milk for the coffee. He acts like I'm picky. I say, you don't know picky, okay? I had a friend once. He's got problems, never mind. Thanks.
I keep them there for you. My phone says it's raining right now.
Not raining.
Oh.
You know, there's something about eating a banana that's like,
That's Christine. She's next door on the other side. She's a likable, pleasant woman, lawyer, opinionated, a little peevish when cross, but she always wants to keep it nice and neighborhood. I got a bag of kid clothes for you.
you rock.
For your refugee family?
Coming today.
My phone, it says it's raining right now.
I love when they're wrong.
I don't.
Oh, it's great. Like, hello, sheeples. Open your eyes and look outside. Today, I brought you
tomorrow, actually.
You know, I knew that actually.
She'll be 33.
Did you send her something?
Money.
Someone painted over
I saw
her.
that, I saw that.
Did you see my child today?
I did.
Was she wearing a coat?
Something long and green?
Damn it!
What's wrong with that?
Nothing. Nobody cares about the resilience of my soul. Nor should they. Nor should they. When they always be too punched in, it'll lose its binding agent, scatter over the floor in wormy little pieces. Maybe it'll be a relief. Maybe my conscience will go with it. I'll get, we're all bad. Maybe badness will help. Maybe I'll stop looking at the guardrails. Yeah, it's a possibility. Nah, you gotta laugh about these things. Hey there, I thought I was going to meet a man.
I think he's asleep still.
So Roy's come then.
He's cleaning out his storage space on 15.
How's it look?
Nice looking up here. All filled out. Wolfish, but clean. Time is passing. Last time I saw him, he was skinny and scary.
He had those black contacts.
Now they're all cute. Wears those shirts buttoned up to the neck so you get just a glimpse of the danger beneath. Just fine with a cleaver and a carcass. Dignified at Halloween. Like he's someone you like to exchange barbs with in a dark corner while the shit is proverbially sinking.
Oh, wow, well, that sounds all right. I'd love to exchange barbs with a man. I'm remembering the feeling as you speak of it. The lip curling up over my eye teeth. Legs crossed tight, clitoris lifted. Oh, yeah, hypnotics.
Who is it?
It's her husband.
What do you say?
He was kind.
You know, it's like a river. It keeps spitting you out, forcing you to make the decision about whether you're going to put stones in your pocket because it just won't let you drift away on your own. No.
We got a bag of clothes for your family dog. Hey, honey,
Tammy is affable and robust.
is Tina up yet? I've been bugging my cute cop buddy about Joe's case.
Oh, yeah?
Nudging him because Tina told me Roy was coming, and I got some interesting news.
Oh, yeah.
Turns out they got a blood test when they brought her in.
That's not news. They were checking for drugs. It was thrown out.
Hey, honey, did you buy her a toothpaste? Yeah. You did? Yeah. I didn't see it. I bought it. Look at one of the reusable bags. It's not by the sink, and maybe I didn't unpack it. Will you just find it? Because I can't spend the time looking.
Right now?
Yes. It's the right way to go about it. Did he come last night?
He did. He should be down soon. He's very attractive.
Is he?
Very nice looking. All filled out. Hunky.
How do you think he feels?
It's too early to know.
I thought he'd turn out different. Hell, I thought I'd turn out different. I thought I'd enjoy some twisty, rootsy path through the counterculture. And here I am living in my hometown with 2 kids.
You can't have expectations. I raised both my daughters to be leaders, and now one of them is a violent felon. I thought I was safe with girls.
Hey, Grace.
My daughter, Grace, a listener, a woman capable of immense affection and loyalty.
Tammy, it was on the sink.
Oh, sorry.
Did you look on the sink?
I did.
No, you didn't. Did the kids get on the oatmeal or something?
They were hungry.
No, I'm hungry. Do you want me to make you a toad in a hole? What kind of bread do we have? Pumpernickel. Will you make me a pumpy toad?
Sure, baby, I'm into a puppy cow.
You know, my phone says it's raining.
Maybe it is.
This?
Basil from Christine. Do you want pesto?
Yeah, headache.
Oh, for $175, I could get a 6-bedroom in Colony, Pennsylvania.
Where's Colin?
Near Lancaster. 2 hours from Lancaster.
Where's Lancaster?
Somewhere in Pennsylvania.
Tina never moved.
Is Roy up yet?
She's making an eggs.
Someone painted over Josephine's penis.
Oh, I know.
You weren't here before.
Little Rita. dirty gum. Listen, be careful, or I'll take you down on my laboratory.
It's just an unfinished
We
basement.
finished it in '96. Tile means finished. Hotel means there.
Can I tell her not to sing?
That she should learn. Go. They can't give it up.
Wait till they're teens.
What are you going to tell Tina about Joe's penis?
Oh, I think she is.
How does she know?
Mom! I'm in love with Roy.
I see.
Oh, that's a weird experience. When I get close to him, my body plumps up with fluid. Like my whole body feels more taut. Like I feel sick, you know, like buzzy and sweaty. I'm pretty sure I gave him a boner when we were driving here. I reached down to pick up a receipt and brushed the inside of his leg, and he like had to pull his shirt down. I wanted to stop the car and like disrobe him. I'm sorry. It's like I'm dying. I don't want to tell him. Should I tell him that I love him? I really want to tell him, but I'm torn. What if that's one of those things where he's like, I wish you never told me that, but now things are weird. And then maybe just Josephine could blow up in my face. And I like him as a buddy. You know, we've been through a lot. And I'm like, ew. Because I love him.
He's very handsome. He's your sister's husband. It's pretty bad. Tina will take it badly.
It's not like when or if Joe gets out, she's going to want anything to do with us. Or Roy, or, you know, Joe. Joe said no.
Well, Tina doesn't think so.
What's it like? I want to do something for me.
What do you do that's not for you?
But it's a thing I'm thinking about. Joe did whatever she wanted. I was always here not doing what I wanted, always talking to myself, telling myself, you don't feel that, it's your serotonin levels, or what the fuck. I want to believe in want again.
You're too romantic. Think about things that have to be like they have to be. Nothing has to be. Nobody has to be.
I can't live in that world. For me, people have to be. Roy has to be. For me, it's Roy. Me and Roy doing something weird somewhere. She doesn't like him. We'll go away. We'll go away somewhere weird. A beach town.
Leave the center?
Been working at the center since I was 13 years old.
I know, and now you're my head counselor. We're a team.
Yesterday, a girl who used to pass notes about me in homeroom came in for a consultation.
For what?
You know, substance abuse, OCD, depression, whatever.
Well, she's asking for your help. I'm proud of you.
Felt like I was inside one of those vacuum bags that makes blankets really small and someone was sucking all the air out.
You don't know how lucky you are to be a leader in your community. No, you don't. The center is a bastion of this community. We lead, you and me, together as a team. It's awesome. Oh, no, you don't know. I have lived on the margins. It is not that far.
Hey, Tina.
That's Tina. Sister comrade. We're involved, but not involved. She's a woman of uncontrolled inspiration.
When you come out here, can you not leave your trash in the doorway? Because then I enter the world through a threshold of trash, which is not difficult to see, is a terrible way to enter the world. I have a headache.
Sorry, I'm going to take it out.
Oh, I want to drop a bomb on this house. I sprayed over Joe's penis. It being her birthday and all, I couldn't take it.
Roy is so good looking. Don't you think that, Tina?
I never thought about how nicely his physique would balance out. Skinny boys can go either way. Does he have a weak chin? Oh, it's a question. But he's been loyal to Josephine, so he'll always be good in my books.
What do you mean, loyal?
You don't see him shacking up with some 1-2 floozy just because his old lady's in the can.
I mean, maybe he just hasn't found the right person yet.
The right person? Who, BKB?
Want me to do your pressure points?
Just dehydrated, South Roadhouse. Dave Burr was telling me a funny story about Joe.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, we shouldn't have left one penis like some commemoration. We should have left all of them or none of them.
I mean, they were everywhere. They were on the elementary schools.
So the kids don't know what a penis is? What's wrong with seeing a penis? There's a checkerboard on the underhand that I 100% know was a swastika on the recess wall.
And now it's a checkerboard, and Joe's penis is a flower, and that's just nicer whether they know what it is or not. And you're the one who painted the last one over.
Folks were treating it like some commemoration. Bullshit. She's over penises. She told me.
Great. Okay. Let's just stop with the Joe talk, okay? We're like anorexics. We can't stop baking.
Yeah. Give me nose, will you?
Maybe we could go somewhere romantic tonight. Like, somewhere with beauty. Let's go like some inn. Take the labels off everything. And the glasses are really heavy.
Deck chairs and the scenery.
I know a place like that off of 15. Looks over a waterfall. These waitresses, they wear like concert violinist dresses. Like, oh, neck like yes! Well, let's go tonight.
Why the hell not?
Oh, fantastic! Roy, choice!
I'm gonna get some tea tree oil for your temples.
Lemon water.
2, please.
What are they up to?
Who?
Roy and her.
He's clearing out his storage space on 15.
Bullshit.
This is where Roy grew up. Can't come home.
Would you visit your hometown if you weren't living there anymore?
He's married to Josephine. Where are his folks?
She thinks she's not being seductive, but she is. She thinks just because she's not wearing hot lingerie, balconette bras and shit, that she's not being seductive. I see it all the time with my students. Got this class full of knockouts, boss women, and the boys always love the greasy-haired dump with the chewed-up sweatshirt. Blossoms. Okay? Joe is your daughter.
Well, they're both my daughters, and Grace has been a good one. I know you did a lot of things raising Joe.
Everybody just blames me.
No, nobody blames.
Well, nobody thanks me.
Who gets thanked? Who gets thanked? You moved in and you watched the kids while I was finishing my P18 and while I was getting a center on it. You were paid.
Oh, same old story. Nobody else would take me, right? I was a good girl all of those years.
Tina, man, why are you getting so worked up? What do you mean? You were my best friend growing up, and you're my best friend now. When you came into this house, you were a godsend. My husband was dead. I was losing my fucking mind. I don't think raising kids are any less work than anything else. They were my kids, and I didn't want to do it. I was bad at kids, and you were good at it. You think I undervalue that? We helped each other when we needed help.
But now Joe's in jail.
She was always a problem. There's nothing you could have done.
Well, you could have.
No. That ain't the place I'm gonna go. Gonna stay awake for another day? No.
Sure. Joke. Christine and I are working on the appeal.
Come on, Tina. You know there's nothing.
Hey,
Roy, what are you, some kind of male model? You know that sweater coat.
Hot stuff. Smoking.
It's like a fancy thing that I wear, but you know, 1 or 2 paychecks, you know. Little. I'm gonna take it off before they.
Got such great shoulders. Doesn't mean Tina.
You beefed up, Roy.
I saw you do 50 push-ups
good, Cleo. How's your week?
Oh, I stopped keeping beans a few years ago. Mine was like, you know when you grow tomatoes and you eat them and you wish they were good, but they're not. That was my honeymoon year.
She just gets bored of her identity.
True.
Well, ain't you the pillar of my dream? Oh, this is the doctor.
Ah, I heard a lot about you, Doc.
That's true, I hope her it's not true. I don't know why I'm trucking in cliches.
So you're living in my old house, huh?
Oh, well.
Oh, sorry, yeah, no, I know. There's a teardown. That place is a piece of shit. You don't be blowing me, I'd be watching termites chewing out the corners of the room. Sorry.
You're married, I think we can talk about that stuff.
Of course. I'm not eating out my bedroom.
Weird being back.
Sarah, just someone on the phone from the day camp. Dietrich day camp.
Lane, Sarah's husband.
Hey, man.
Hey,
So,
so can you talk to them?
are you kidding me?
Well, what am I supposed to say?
I'm working.
You are.
I visited Jessica to check on her meds, and now I'm off to the center. I just stopped by to say hi for a second.
So you're here. So can you just talk to them? Look, you know I hate talking on the phone.
No fucking way. You're the stay-at-home dad.
I'm a musician. And I'm practicing. I have a practice on Saturday that I would like to be prepared for. We have a gig next month. Did you forget?
No, honey, of course not.
No, I guess I'm not saving lives. I know I'm nothing compared to
Don't
you.
say that, honey. I know. Hold on. I'm talking.
It's on the kitchen phone.
You know, there's beauty, and there's romance, and then competence, earning potential, problem-solving skills, embrace of challenges versus avoidance of challenges, follow through, ability to make decisions, ability to locate misplaced items. Where are my keys? Have you seen my wallet? Product consumption. You know what I mean?
Are you coming?
She should take a blowtorch to that guy.
Whoa.
You know what an hasting in the hand is called in Texas Hold'em?
No.
And Ornicova. You want to know why?
What? Yeah.
Looks good, never wins. Like that
She was a professional tennis player who was thoroughly attractive.
Do you know who she is?
From when I was younger.
She's hot.
No, that's it.
So, Roy, where are you guys again?
I was in Tarrytown, but I'm working in Troy now.
Maybe not boys.
This is how people talk, Grace. So, yeah, so, Troy. So you're doing something with farms?
Yeah, urban revitalization through farming. You better come to our restaurant.
No, right. I'm kidding.
Food's the only thing we leave our houses for anymore.
You know, right here in this very town, we got this road. You know what it's called? Shades of Death Road. Shades of Death Road. You know why? Once there were 3 houses on it. 3, you know, families, mother and father, and uncle, sons and daughters, with families. And they were farmers, and they used to sell stuff at the market once a year. And then one day folks said,
Why haven't we seen the local hamster for a couple of seasons? So they went to visit, and the reason was every single person in those houses was dead. Consumption, tuberculosis, rotting corpses.
so now they call it Shades of Death Road.
Shades of Death Road.
about some, you and Joe, funny stories.
Wow, tapeworm, yeah?
How's Tabby?
Tina,
What? She's my goddaughter. I want to know how she is.
I'm gonna go, somewhere I gotta take out the trash.
I did that.
hey, Tina.
Fine. Go.
Yeah, she's okay. I mean, sorry. She's great. She and my mom's the biggest thieves. I think she's awesome. She's like a good person. Shy. Nothing like Joe, actually. She reminds me of you, actually. Well, you've seen her.
Since when?
I picked her up.
It's great that she's with you guys,
With her daddy.
It's nice what you guys are doing.
It's not nice. I'm not trying to be nice.
Thinking any more about bringing her to see Joe?
Not just yet.
It's gotta be hard on her.
Not knowing her mommy.
I don't know if it is. I think it's just confusing. I was mad, of course.
Of course, of course.
But now, the age she is, confusing.
You and Tabby could come live around here. We got all these people converting garages they want to rent, or whatever. I'm sure your mom wants to break.
Yeah. Nice place you got here. Nice community.
You could move here when Joe gets out.
Yeah.
It'll be fine, Roy. You guys will be fine. I mean, people forgive and they won't take it out on Tabby. What Joe needs, actually, is to come back here. She's doing so well these days. She's so strong. That kid be that fucking strong, you know? That strong.
Joe's got 20 years.
I'm working on the appeal. I mean, you don't think she was responsible,
Of course she was.
but not really responsible.
She was.
It was a manic episode. She wasn't in her right mind. Christine and I are working on evidence for the appeal.
There's a person who can't walk.
It was a manic episode, so she went too far. She had been fine for so long.
Well, I'll tell you. Even if she does get out, I won't let her in 2 miles of my childhood.
It's okay. No, it's okay. It's okay.
She doesn't have any rights to her.
She does, Roy. And she does.
Not legally.
Yeah, but you know that. We know that she does.
Tina?
Hi. Roy, hi. How are ya? How are ya? How are ya?
Hey, Christine.
Wow, weird. You got something feral happening with you, Roy. I'm unnerved.
Don't scare him.
How's loitering?
Oh, fine. You know, I don't work for a firm anymore, so that's a godsend. I was working 80 hours a week. It was exciting, but exhausting, and I had to be home more. So now I do mostly small business stuff. I work from home, and then from this, what's it called? Communal office space in town. Like WeWork, but not WeWork. You know, I do like small business contracting, low stakes, flexible, not a lot of meetings. Woo!
How's Dan?
Oh, still driving me crazy. Nah, she's great. She's a Venus flytrap, and I'm her bug. Fantastic mom, amazing cook, hot as hell. I lucked out. She's really into running these days. She looks great.
How's the kids?
Kids. You know, dude. Kids, they need us less now. We're thinking about getting a dog. Don't do it. You hate dogs? No, I don't hate them. It's just like dogs. Everyone I know gets a dog, and it says, why did I get this goddamn dog? I keep saying this, Tammy. We just got to the point where the kids can get up on their own in the morning, and now we're gonna have to get up at 6:30 and walk a dog. And by we, I mean me. It's just that I like people. I'm a psychologist. I'm great for conversation. You can't really have a conversation with a goddamn dog.
She has no connection to silence and communication that happens there.
It's been a long time since I lay on someone's chest and experience the intangible.
I was telling Cleo this morning I got some news about Joe.
What's this?
They think they're working on an appeal.
We are.
There is nothing to appeal.
Hey, Mom.
What news? Well, maybe you should get it all.
I found out from my cute old cop buddy that they did get a blood test. He's checking it out right now to see if it measured lithium.
Does that show up?
Could have, depending on where they sent it.
If she wasn't taking it, she wasn't taking it. It doesn't change what she did.
It might have changed the sentencing. Instead of 20, it could mean that in a couple of years she could be monitored. She could be walking around. She could see her.
Don't you have work, Christine?
Yeah. Rude. It's all just information, Cleo. Information never hurt anybody as far as I'm concerned. She just doesn't want to get her hopes up.
Grace, do you want to help me read or wheelbarrow lunch from place to place?
Sure. Nice to see you, Roy. Tina, I'll let you know when I know. I'm gonna take a nap.
It's 10 in the morning.
I woke up 4 a.m. My brain's a fishbowl. You ever feel the large hand of an ex-con truck driver on your ass? His leather jacket sticking to your skin, your feet sticking to the floor, dry sweat, cigarette smoke, motor oil, dancing slow to a fast song. He spills his drink down your sparkly top, pushes you against the crunchy cement wall, and you can feel that he'd take it from you, even if you didn't want to. You don't want to give.
That's nice.
I'm going to go get on my gear. I have this great new gardening apron, oilcloth, wax cloth, I love that stuff. And I also got a tote that I actually use it as a work bag. It's got great pockets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Roy,
Yeah.
this is super psycho. Super psycho. But, like, I can't do anything about this because I'm going nuts. Like, I'm exploding. And, like, what's happening to me is, like, not healthy. So, oh my God.
You're okay, Grace.
Roy, I'm in love with you.
Wow.
Oh no, it's like, whatever. I know it's like, whatever. I know, it's like, whatever. I'm sorry. I'm in love with you. It's like, I don't want to be in love with you, but like, my body is like super insane. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just like lust, but I don't know. I mean, I think people, it's just like fucking, I find out if it's real or not. It'd be like definitive, you know? I'm gonna let you talk, but it's okay if you don't think of me that way. It's okay. I'm gonna let you talk, but like, the second thing that I want, other than fucking you, is like for you to be happy. Like I like pray for you. I pray for you to be happy because like other than us fucking, it's like the second thing that I want.
That's so nice. Yeah. So, I mean, sorry. I can be a little clueless about this stuff.
Yeah, so it's okay. I mean, it's
No, I mean like.
I know I'm not sexy. I'm like too erotic to be sexy. Like I've seen fucking Manhattan, fucking Ariel Hemingway. She's all like quiet and positive and soulful. And it's like really sexy because of it. And she's a teen. And I'm
continue to talk. But, yeah, I like you a lot.
Maybe as a friend or like a sister.
No, I mean, like, I think you're sexy. Yeah, I mean, like, you gave me a morning yesterday.
When I was driving.
No, a different time.
Not
I haven't let myself think those thoughts. I mean, I'm pretty wrapped up with Tabby and the farm, and I mean, there was a lot of bullshit in my life for like a long time. Now I'm like not into that. So call me gunshot.
yeah, I get that.
But like, I really enjoyed our email. Like I felt really nourished by our newfound and warm connection.
Yeah.
Like this.
No, really? Okay. No, sorry, I'm experiencing something weird.
You want it?
Sorry. Can we start again? I wasn't present.
Whoa.
Like me. You're too cute to like me. Maybe I don't like you.
You like me.
You give me too much anxiety.
Give me a second. Let's go out tonight. Knowing that we kissed, let's go out tonight. We can, you know, feel that.
Let it inform the night.
That'd be nice.
Hey, look at this thing. Isn't it great? I love this kind of cloth. Oilcloth or wax cloth.
Hey, Mom.
What's happening?
Nothing.
Nothing? Nothing. Does nothing ever happen? I got friends who try to make nothing happen, but they actually never make it happen. Actually, never. Nothing never happens. Isn't that funny?
We were just talking about stuff.
I was telling Grace about this combine harvester that runs in Cornwall.
Bullshit. I moved on. Roy, have you ever considered wearing suspenders? And Grace, are you going to be in that? Her whole life, I could never get her to wear appropriate footwear.
Roy, your mom's on the phone.
Oh, shit.
She says Daddy's fine.
Oh, good.
It's the kitchen phone.
I'll be right there.
Thought you were going to take a nap.
I think I'll snooze out of here. Oh, what a last one, that me. You ain't a dog. I inherited a dog, so I think I'll just fall asleep.
Hello.
Hi.
Where's Roy?
Phone call inside.
You?
We gotta go to the day camp. He's being bullied again. Yes. I said to him not to wear that coat.
Stay away from somebody's fault.
That's nobody's fault.
She's really imaginative, sensitive, and intelligent. She's very intelligent. She's very intelligent.
She's like this open flower, and dumbasses don't get her, so they try to step on her. I didn't know until I started watching her public because I was. Growing up, I thought it was all my.
Funny, again, until later, what a rise I used to get out of seeing Joe be an asshole to some other kid. Watching her boss or friends push him around. I love him. Gave me pride.
Are you kidding? You all loved it.
She is fucking strong.
She was ill.
She wouldn't take shit, you know? You were just like excited about watching a woman not take any shit. You know? Did I think about those other girls, you know, the ones she was pushing around?
Yeah, like me.
She was younger.
Get
letting someone else answer.
And what about me?
You were smart and kind, and everyone just always said, she's amazing.
Joe was a salty wind, whipping sand into your eyes. Wake up, assholes! When she put that sunshine on you, it was like you were riding in a convertible, arms spread wide. It was like you were 6 years old, rolling down a long, steep, grassy hill. And when you were in her shade, it was a cold, dark, and scary place. Going inside.
30 years of practice, and I still don't know why, really. Why wanting love? Why makes us recoil? Why when someone says, will you love me? Why do we want to pick them up in our shoe like a piece of trash? Why do we find the rejectors appealing?
Because not being fucking pathetic.
No, it's because we sense their access to power. It's just old tribalism. We think we go with the person, the mean person, you know? And they'll be able to like knife anyone who comes to steal our yak meat or whatever.
I'll knife your yak.
I remember my mom saying when I was growing up, marry the nerdy guy. And I thought, you're condemning me to a life of unsatisfactory partners because I am always going to want that bad boy because that bad boy is graceful and sexy. He'd win the fight, he probably screws better. So I married that bad boy.
Alfred?
And Al crashes my Honda drunk, the coke in his system, and Josephine in the back seat. And I watch all the bad boys as they get older fade into men who don't know what to do with themselves. Parodies of men. Diabetes, heart disease, obesity, opioid addiction, lung cancer, sad, really.
And I always liked the nerds, their arrogance and their tight little ass clean behavior.
I'm not a nerd.
I always liked the class clowns. They never liked me.
That's the end.
Yes, we do. Well, for the, yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Sarah Hughes, and I directed this. I'm Julia May Jonas. And we, so this whole thing is a studio visit, so there's the work, and then we're going to talk a little bit about this piece and the project it's a part of, and also just our own work. And then we have a video response from Jess Barbagallo, who has spent some time with the script and watched some video, and was not able to be here because he's in Harry Potter, so like, whatever. That's great. And then there's a little talkback. I think I got it. So yeah, I guess we can just start by talking about what this whole thing is a part of. Do you want to sit down?
No, it's okay.
Stand.
Yeah.
We can talk about what this piece excerpt that you just saw is a part of a larger project called All Along True American Stories. This piece is A Woman Among Women, and All Along True American Stories is this 5-play cycle that Julia has been writing since 2015. That is a series of works responding to the kind of great white male American canon with new plays for other people, mostly women. So this one was responding to All My Sons by Arthur Miller. The other ones in the series are
Long Day's Journey into Night, True West, American Buffalo, and Zoo Story.
So that's what this piece is, and the whole series of them again has been in development since 2015, and will have a premiere in 2020. So this is we've been workshopping this piece for a while. This is just the first part of the first half, basically. Do you want to talk a little more about the whole project and how you got started on it, maybe?
Oh yeah, well essentially I got started on it because I saw a play that I felt like was using maybe the capital of femininity, but without actually putting it inside of an actual female situation and experience. And so I felt like I wanted to create kind of new worlds based off of these plays that I had grown up with and kind of passed along the way in my theater upbringing, to basically create kind of these bigger situations and working with kind of volume and excess and a sense of a glut almost of roles and dramatic situations and things like that. So yeah, that's pretty much where it came from.
So we've been working on this piece together and another one in the series. We used to wear bonnets and get high all the time, which is the title of the piece responding to Long Day's Journey into Night. It's a great title. It has to be long. It's a long title, a Meals long title. So we've been working on those two for the last 2 years. And I guess just to talk a little bit about the form of this piece, which is like somewhat represented here, but this theater is sort of different than a lot of the spaces we worked in on this piece and sort of what we ultimately think it will be. We thought a lot about eyes on you. You thought a lot about this is this sort of community. There's a complicity in this group of people. Ultimately, there's a lot more stuff happens, but ultimately it ends up that Cleo, as in All My Sons, Cleo did there was a betrayal of trust that resulted in her daughter Jo ending up in prison, and so there's this sort of massive upheaval in this community, and that they're all sort of complicit in a way. So we thought a lot about what are ways of representing a community, and also, it's hard to talk about without getting to that part. But anyway, like kind of a group therapy circle is what we came to. So that's where kind of this idea came from of having the audience be in and amongst the actors, because they're part of this. They're part of this community. They're part of this story. They're part of what ends up ultimately sort of damning a member of this community to incarceration, which is something that ties in, I think, with what Arthur Miller is getting at in terms of what's the fabric of the society, what's the fabric of a community. That's something about this play.
Yeah, that's great. I think we should go to the video. So Jess Barbagallo made a video response, which we will be seeing now. And then Andrew will come up and talk to us a little bit more. Great.
Because I felt that it lacked a certain grasp on reality. I saw a play once as a favor to a colleague who had developed a bad case of hives as a reaction to shellfish. And this friend, colleague, more of an acquaintance now, really, they needed someone to accompany a group of high school students they were instructing to a Broadway play. And this acquaintance graciously warned me that what I would see was a piece of musical theater, which I was familiar with as a form, because I'd seen a version of Jonathan Larson's Rent, sort of sanitized, strangely catchy response to the HIV/AIDS crisis. But this musical that I chaperoned was quite harrowing. We were sitting very high in the back, and by the end of the performance, I observed that a majority of the audience was tilting forward in their seats, all the while I was recoiling in mine. The story we were engaged with, or presumably engaged with, was about a pregnant woman in an undesirable relationship, and the affair that ensues with her gynecologist, which has an allure to it. I don't know if you've ever been to the gynecologist. I didn't want to be presumptuous about your medical history, but so you know, there's that sense of pull or wonder in that moment of assessment and care through the offering of an orifice and its necessary exploration. But those values weren't being named because there's a limited language that we trust will be understood. And there were secondary characters that provided laughter and less compelling storylines. Perhaps they resonated with me in their neglect. It's a story about baking, which I identified early on as a kind of trap, a cute trap. I don't bake, personally. View it as an activity of distraction. I prefer Sudoku. There's a line that I'm reminded of in the Jonas text, A Woman Among Women, when the wounded sister, Grace, who's lusting after her incarcerated sister Joe's husband, Roy, she says, we're like anorexics who can't stop baking. And of course the scenario at that point is it's a gaggle of women who've found themselves discussing a woman who's no longer in their presence, Joe. And they're discussing her relentlessly. She's a fallen woman, she's an imprisoned woman, she's a site for projections and fantasies of failure. She's a site for gossip. Gossip is just compensation for everything that should be said, converted into everything that is actually unnecessary. That's what I think about women, to answer your earlier question.
Men gossip too.
Sex is messy. From groin to shining groin. But that musical was so harrowing because it brought so many into agreement
over a fantasy. And that made me feel claustrophobic. It was an agreement over lyricism, when in fact we know that nothing flows from one thing to another. That play was called Waitress.
Do you want to talk about this play?
Yes, yes. You know, I had never heard of Arthur Miller. When you told me that that his All My Sons was the inspiration for A Woman Among Women. It's in my mind. I sort of imagined him as an early pre-identity politics performance artist. Yes, but I did recognize the middle one from a retrospective and film forum.
It's Carl.
Yes, the screening was ill-attended. But, what a time capsule. Language, 1947, when war could be discerned discreetly. The good guys were good, the bad guys were bad, and we didn't need Sudoku to cultivate our focus because our objects of inquiry were so limited.
It's funny you say that because I was talking to my therapist and he said the general rule is that we get good at something or we make money at it if we just choose the one thing, if we limit our focus.
Mm. Your therapist sounds sheltered.
Do you see a therapist?
I try speaking as an act of therapy, especially when I'm in between health insurance. But the Jonas text was a curiosity to me, the woman among women. It was a provocation when you asked me the question about...
This is embarrassing. I asked you, said, what would a woman say? Yeah. What would a straight woman say about this play?
I would say what was viable, and then I would put the rest away. It's the only way to survive. It's a nightmare of speaking for
We're just going to hold for technical
women.
difficulties for
Nightmare of speaking for...
1 second. We're holding for technical difficulties. 1 second. Sorry.
Hey.
Choose the one thing. If we limit our focus.
Mm-hmm. Your therapist sounds sheltered.
Do you see a therapist?
I try speaking as an act of therapy, especially when I'm in between health insurance. But the Jonas text was a curiosity to me, the woman among women. It was a provocation when you asked me the question about...
This is embarrassing. I asked you, said, what would a woman say? Yeah. What would a straight woman say about this play?
I would say what was viable, and then I would put the rest away. It's the only way to survive. It's the nightmare of speaking for women. Nightmare of speaking for anyone. And this Vimeo footage that I watched, there's a circle of people with a few empty chairs. And you can tell they're not in the city because the audience is very warm. And as the camera starts to pan out a little further, I become a voyeur, as we do, through the computer. I think that my interest is the artist Julia's interest. Well-behaved women do not make history is a slogan that one of the characters, Sarah, the idea of character is still so silly to me. Sarah sees that slogan, encounters it on a doormat. And I think it sort of speaks to how does one receive recognition and notice in a man's world? I mean, there are certainly worlds that belong to women. But the public space is so far gone that I don't even know if that world can be made tangible. And so my question to her would be, speak to the circle. Is it a formal gimmick? What are you reaching across? What am I reaching across right now? This is not Broadway, but I'm tilted forward. I'm leaning in, and I'm troubled by that phrase. Are you?
Hello. I'm Andrew. I'm the curator of this year's Prelude. First, thank you so much. I saw this play last year and just loved it, and it was such an honor to invite you all to come work on this here and to see so many artists that I love and admire making this show. And then that. The studio visit model is effectively a chance for us to dive a little bit deeper into a project, an exciting project such as this, from a multivalent attack. That is to say, we get to see a little bit of the work, we get to hear the artists talk about the work and locate themselves in a moment in time. We get to co-commission. We talked and they were really passionate about inviting Jess to be the critical respondent. And so we get to have another perspective, another creative perspective on the work as it exists in this moment. And then we get to talk with you all. So this is a Q&A. It can be, if you have questions for each other, that's appropriate too. But the one thing that I ask is that we really honor the idea of question and answer. If you have comments, if you have thoughts, if you have passionate ideas you want to share, just whisper them to yourself. And then say them as you fall asleep at night. But instead, leave this space as a chance for you to really offer questions up to the room, because that's the generous gesture. That's where we all get to benefit through conversation. So I'll start just by saying, so you said it'll premiere in 2020, and I won't ask you where, except yay. But I'll say, is the idea that the full cycle is going to, that is the first time that all of the plays will appear as together as a cycle?
Yeah, that's the sensible idea right now. Yes, they'll appear as in a rep run, so they'll be kind of opening over the course of a couple of weeks, and then there'll be these marathon days where you can see all 5 in one day, and we'll develop a rep company so that there'll be a crew of maybe 14 actors that will be performing all the roles.
Does anyone out there have any questions for the artist at this moment in time? No? Great, well, I'll ask another. Okay, so you said you saw a play where you saw the idea of the device of femininity being used without it being anchored in any sort of female experience, or rather as a sort of plot device. What play?
Oh, I can't say.
Okay. So
sorry, I don't want to
play.
say. It was a new play.
Okay. I don't know if these are working, but I like pretending they are. Okay, great. Okay, so then it was a new play that you can't name, but was it, that triggered you to then go back to the canon, to the American canon?
Yeah.
Was it hard to identify what those plays were?
No, it was very intuitive. Yeah, to think about that. It was almost like a list that I came up with just thinking in a very short amount of time about what the list would be.
Or by like reading any announcements from any Broadway theaters.
That just happens to be convenient,
No,
but yeah.
It's just amazing. I mean, since we've been working on this, there's like an announcement every season where it's like, we're doing True West with Paul Dano. And you're like, great. I mean, great, fine, but it's like, okay, we'll just do like Long Day's Journey every season. I don't know. You just start to notice it. in a different way. That you're like, wow, it's just constant saturation, I guess, of the theater world.
Yeah, well, and I can't help it. Here we are in a university. How many copies of the Hardcore Grace Anthology of Drama have like traced those lines for you, so that like there are so many students who come up in the theater thinking that's the only way that we can represent, or not even represent, leverage feminine ideas or representations.
Yeah, I mean, I was also just primarily interested in it because I was interested in dramatic structure, and I'm kind of a formalist in that way, in that I'm just interested in these structures and figuring out what they are, and figuring out in some way, I think it had been by osmosis or some other way, been fed to me that there's a different female structure than there is necessarily a male structure, and also just this idea. I mean, I don't know. Also, this other idea that like women can't really write structure, which I think it's very. Actually, we're in a very different world in 2015 when I started writing these pieces, and I don't think that would be anything that anyone would say anymore. But I feel like certainly I had heard that kind of feedback, and so I was actually interested in like, what is this foreign structure? What would it be like to play within the confines of these foreign structures?
Well, I have to say, when I saw the show last year, the pleasure of watching women engaging in locker room talk about a male body was real different than now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like it's a different experience to dismiss that as boys will be boys or girls will be girls.
Yeah. I mean, no. I think there is something interesting about allowing a female character to have a real Aristotelian arc in a classic way, which somehow I think maybe feels fresh to me, and I'm not sure, maybe it's not fresh, but it feels fresh to me.
Yeah, I mean, and just to like your point about the locker room talk thing, I feel like, the idea that like the way bad behavior sits on different people of different genders and different races, and how our society like accepts or rejects that, and how that plays out now, in so many things where you're like, oh, so like, whatever, we can say whatever we want about this person because they're this kind of person, and we wouldn't, because that had been, like, women have been treated so badly for so long, and so now can they turn and like treat men just as badly? And it's like, well, it's a question. How far do you want the pendulum to swing in either direction? Yeah.
You also earlier said something to the effect of, as I continue on these pieces, I better lawyer up.
Yeah. Oh, well, just,
you're streaming online right now.
Yeah, totally. Thinking about, I said that because thinking about estates, and certainly I think that this All My Sons is very far, and also they're all loving homages to these plays, which I actually, if you spend any time with them, you recognize that they're full of skill and craft, and I really enjoy skill and craft, no matter where it comes from. And to speak to that point about objectifying, for example, Roy, I mean, Anne, the character that Roy is kind of standing in for in All My Sons, is just constantly objectified, but it's not, the reason it's interesting is because it's not objectification, it's these compliments from these fatherly figures, and everyone has the best intentions, so I wondered about putting those good into, and Anne keeps being like, my legs are great. She just keeps, she actually really, she enjoys it. She finds it stimulating. So I just thought about, what that looks like when it shifts.
Yeah. Have any questions emerged from y'all in this time? Yes?
Hi. I was curious what it was like to implement those musical moments that happened throughout the whole execution of the play. I was curious how you created those moments inside of when it was necessary.
I mean, I think that talks to a little bit of my struggle with structure and story in the course of this play, which is that eventually I can't just hear people talking and revealing information. I get very tired of that thing. I'm like, please don't tell me any more facts about who you are. And so there were these moments where I think just as a person writing something, I came out with something that I thought, okay, well this is the song. This is a moment where we can go into a more associative, philosophical performance place with these, and that was important. That is not necessarily important, but just unavoidable when I'm making something.
Any others? Yes.
Can you just speak to the experience of developing 5 plays at once?
Oh yeah. I didn't really do them at once. I mean, I did a few very quickly, and that was just, I mean, I think I was really depressed, you know, so I was like, I need to do something. Like, I need to really do something, because otherwise I'm never going to get myself out of my weird depression that I'm in. So I was like, it felt a little bit like that. I think it's Kurt Vonnegut who talks about like being a blindfold with mittens on when he writes a first draft. You know, it was kind of just like full steam ahead, getting out as much as possible. And then now I feel like I'm in the middle of the hardest part of the entire exercise, which is now seeing how they all speak to each other and revising and finding out what they're all really saying. Like the initial vomit felt like that, a vomit. And so now it's actually like figuring out what the experience will be.
Any others? Well, unless you have any questions for each other, I will take vomit as an exit point to say, honestly, it is such a pleasure. There's something about curating where you get to just pick all the artists that you would want to work closely with and admire and engage in this sort of like complex decomposition with. So this is really pleasurable to me. I hope it was for you. And thank you so much, and thank you to all of the actors and everyone working on Prelude. I hope that you're going to be with us for the next 2 days. We have 4 more studio visits. We have 12 works in progress, 3 new dramaturgy presentations on everything from specific theater to cognitive theory and casting. We have a performance around food and eating together. We have Prelude Arcade, which is artists who, Sarah's also part of that, artists who work in technology and other mediums besides live performance. So anyway, there's a lot to come. It's all free. I hope to see you for the next 2.5 days and to celebrate Daniel Alexander Jones on Saturday night at our closing night party. So thank you again so much.
Thank you so much.